All right, now 3 o'clock chat here. The NBA saw a record number of points in yesterday's All-Star game. East defeats the West. Damian Lillard named MVP. Jordan and Dame now the only two in history to win an event Saturday and take MVP honors on Sunday. The Nets have fired head coach Jacques Vaughn. The team has named Kevin Ollie as the interim. Trailblazers get 4 more days off. They'll host the Denver Nuggets Friday night at Moda Center. Game day at 4:30. Tip at 7 here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. 28 games to play for Portland, 15 at Moda and 13 on the road. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad's coming up next. Alex Brink will join the show at 3:20, and Craig Cheek of the Portland Diamond Project will stop by at 4:20. Well, happy President's Day. What's up, Godfather? I got to tell you what, I really enjoyed the weekend without Trailblazer basketball. Everything I told you I was going to do on Friday, I did, and it was very relaxing. How about you? Nice weekend?
Yes, although Abraham Lincoln and George Washington are spinning in their graves, that we have to work on President's Day.
I know.
Very upsetting.
I could have authorized the entire staff get the day off, but the problem is when your competition's working, it's like I would feel very lazy to wake up and not go into work today on a President's Day. No disrespect to Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, of course.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
So happy to be here. The Portland Golf Show is coming up March 1st to the 3rd. We've got a pair of tickets to give away today and the rest of the week, so we'll do that coming up at 3:45. Alex Brink is going to come by to put a wrap on the football season here at 3:20, Godfather. And Craig Cheek, Portland Diamond Project, is going to check in at 4:20 to get the latest on the Portland Diamond Project. We know that they've been talking to the city about the site where the Red Tail Golf Course sits, but we don't know if an official offer has been made, what the latest is. Would they commit to building and putting a shovel in the ground if they don't have a commitment from Major League Baseball? A lot of questions to be asked, so we'll get those answers hopefully at 4:20.
We hope we'll get those answers. Yes, we need answers, right?
That's right. We need answers. So Craig Cheek will join us, and we've got different things we want to talk about. At 5 o'clock, we'll talk NFL draft. A lot of discussion around the Chicago Bears. They've got the number 1 pick. Caleb Williams is going to be in the draft. Will they draft Williams, or will they keep Justin Fields and look to trade back and collect a haul? So we'll get to that at 5 o'clock. If you want to reach out to Dwight, you'll find him on social media at Dwight Jaynes. You'll find me there at Chad in Rip City. And the telephone number here on the show is 503-248-0620. Michael Shacker is with us, and happy to be with you on this President's Day. But, yeah, Saturday was great. I woke up late in the morning, drank my coffee. I watched Kansas and Oklahoma basketball, and then I went and practiced for about 90 minutes, golf. Went home, relaxed for the rest of the evening, and then yesterday, Isaac and I took a road trip up to Bellevue, and then we drove back. So I got back yesterday about 5 o'clock. So I spent a lot of time on the roadways driving yesterday. I swear I could do the drive from Portland to Seattle with my eyes closed. I've done it so much. I know all the stops, where everything's at. It's just a familiar drive for me.
Okay, I get the whole road trip to Bellevue thing. You get to Bellevue, do you just turn around and come back? What did you do up there? Did you find a Denny's and have lunch, or what did you do?
Well, Isaac had a plan. He wanted to go to church at the church where he goes to in Bellevue, so we did that, and then he wanted to go to Red Robin at Factoria Mall. So we hit Red Robin after church service, and then when we were done there, we got a cup of coffee and made the trek back. And the good thing about the roadways yesterday, all the way up and all the way back, no traffic issues whatsoever.
That's very unusual on that strip of road.
It is, especially when you get up around Tacoma Mall and you start to make that bend, the right-hand turn towards the Tacoma Dome. It usually stacks up there. Not a soul inside. It was open driving the entire way, which is really nice. And it just goes to show you that when there's no traffic, the drive is not bad at all. 2 hours, 15 minutes.
Wow.
2 hours and 20. Cruising at normal speeds, but when there's traffic, it can change everything significantly. So the day turned out to be pretty darn good, and then I relaxed the rest of the evening and got up this morning. I was like, oh, President's Day, but we're going to go to work. So it was good.
Well, I saw on the internet, you gave instructions on how to watch the All-Star game, Chad.
That's right. There's only one way. And that's in the Lazy Boy recliner. And what made me happy when I got to work today is you said, hey, I took your advice.
I did.
I went downstairs, jumped in my Lazy Boy, flipped on the game, saw that they weren't going to compete once again, so I just fell asleep. It's not a bad plan.
That's exactly what I did. I pulled the comforter up first, so I knew I'd be nice and warm and toasty. And the game put me to sleep rather rapidly.
You can't beat the President's Day sale, which is ongoing through the rest of today. 25% off, recliner starting at $399 and interest-free financing for 36 months. The Lazy Boy is awesome. Anyone that's got one and is relaxing in comfort the right way understands the beauty of it. It's spectacular.
And I have one, Chad, like you do, but I'm starting to feel a little guilty that I don't have another one. I am. So I'm kind of taking a look at that sale a little bit because Nancy is over there stuck on the couch with the dog. And I'm thinking if we could fit another Lazy Boy in there, we could just, the couch could be the dog's purview.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may have to look and get a second one. I enjoyed that. And I'll tell you what, Joe Dumars and Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, spent a lot of time talking about how this year was going to be different. It wasn't different. It was the worst display of competition I've ever seen.
I would like to submit that it was different. It was even worse than it's been. That's how it was different. It was terrible.
I'll tell you what was fun, and I did watch the entire All-Star game, unfortunately.
Wow, that's a commitment.
But the Sabrina and Steph competition was terrific. I enjoyed it immensely. I love Sabrina. I love watching Steph shoot the ball, but I thought that competition with those two, and you mentioned this too, Sabrina, before the competition, appeared to be a little bit nervous, which would be understandable based on the stage and who she was competing against. But once she got going and she got her stroke in high working order, she looked just fine out there. Awesome. Great performance by her.
Yeah, she really came through. I think everybody in Oregon was proud to see that. She's still beloved in this state. I still see her jersey walking around on guys' backs all the time. More men than women, by the way. But she came through in a big moment for her and a very important moment, I thought, for the WNBA.
We'll get to Kenny Smith's comments, which a lot of fake outrage around them. We'll get to that at 4:45 today in regards to the competition and how it went down. But I've had a chance to meet Sabrina. I know a couple that is very close with her. She's a beautiful gal, but she's an even better person. Like, she's a terrific person to have in the league and someone representing your franchise because of how she operates. She really is, a terrific person, but basketball-wise, I mean, she can shoot. And her stroke was pure, man.
Yeah.
Against Steph, too. That's pressure.
Yeah, I would say, actually, Chad, I've watched some New York Liberty games. They need to get her more shots. They have 2 or 3 other very good players, and I think she's sacrificing shots for them. They'd be better off if she shot more threes.
Well, why don't you make that happen?
I don't have enough influence in the WNBA yet. I'm working on it, Chad.
Yeah, so I watched that on Saturday. That was nice. Dame won his second three-point competition. The rest of the stuff on Saturday night outside of the three-point competition, it just doesn't work for him anymore, so I don't really pay attention, but I do watch the shooters. I like watching guys shoot the basketball, and I enjoy that. But I would say what I enjoyed most over the weekend of all the events, TNT's coverage was, like usual, terrific.
Yeah.
But they had this tribute to Indiana basketball where they had a panel. It was Reggie Miller, who obviously was a Pacer legend. They also had Larry Bird, who is he's Larry Legend from French Lick, Indiana, played at Indiana State and took them to the national championship game, and then went on to work for the Pacers as coach and president of basketball operations. And then Isaiah Thomas, who was an Indiana basketball legend, played for Bob Knight at IU and won championships. So those three guys together for 48 minutes talking hoop and talking about different moments and memories from their careers, that was exactly what I needed. I just didn't know I needed it. But if Larry Bird's talking, normally I'm going to be listening because I love him so much. But I thought those three guys together were terrific and the connection.
Well, TNT does a great job putting features together, putting panels together. They're so far ahead of any other network right now in doing that kind of thing. And it goes back to their, inside the NBA with Chuck and Kenny and Shaq and, of course, the great Ernie Johnson Jr. On that panel. You could put them on before a Major League Baseball game, a National Football League game, and they would still be the most entertaining pregame, postgame panel in the business. They are really, really good, and we're lucky to get to see them as often as we do.
I agree. That crew with Kenny, Charles, Shaq, and Ernie,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tune in to listen to what they have to say, even if I don't really care about the event that's going on, because
Yeah.
those guys are so good. Their chemistry, their willingness to speak and say whatever's on their mind, it's great. And it's been great for a long period of time. And Ernie Johnson's been one of the best broadcasters for a long period of time. And I got to admit, Shaq, I didn't know how that would work when they brought him on
Right.
board. It works perfectly because he and Charles are always getting at each other. And then Kenny's a little bit wild in terms of all the different things going on in his mind. But the four of them together just mesh.
Yeah, Shaq was. I think he grew into it. The first year wasn't so good, and I was kind of surprised when they signed him. And I asked Charles about it, and what he told me was, we were afraid he was going to go to another network. In other words, ESPN.
Yeah.
So they signed him to block that,
Uh-huh.
and he turned out to be much better, I think, than they even had their hopes to be. And I like the fact that dynamic. Chuck teases him a lot, and he takes it well. That's what I like about him. He's won me over in his ability to be able to take the abuse he gets and either give it back or just laugh it off.
I love that. The other person I like on their coverage that I don't think gets enough credit for the job they do, but I think Candace Parker does an excellent job
She does.
talking
Yeah.
about the game of basketball. I like
Mhm.
listening to her talk. She's got a nice voice. I like her insights on the game, and she meshes well with the guys on the panel. She really is an underrated broadcaster.
Yeah, and what I like best, Chad, and it's not easy, she's very at ease in front of the camera. She's very comfortable on air. And a lot of ex-athletes never quite find that spot, where they're comfortable. She just fit it in right away.
Yeah. I guess that's just how I've always done it. I always pay attention to broadcasters maybe a little bit more
Well, of course.
because I've had such an interest in the game. But I understand now that I've done a little bit of TV, the challenges in that. So she handles it really well. And I think Rebecca Lobo, who has made the transition to TV and does a lot of commentary for ESPN on the women's game, I think she does a good job as well. So I like that. But TNT's awesome. Their coverage was great. The game was awful. It was truly awful. And we'll talk about that in the show today about how, if there's anything they can do to fix it. Because, as you know, I go to YouTube a lot and watch a lot of old games. I just happen to have watched a couple of old school All-Star games back from the 80s.
Yeah.
It's a different game today than what they played back then. Back then, they would allow for some freestyle to a degree through the first three quarters, but once the fourth quarter hit, they were D'ing up and competing, trying to win the game. And what they've got out there is some type of weird exhibition where guys aren't even trying.
Yeah, that's the difference. You say, in the fourth quarter, but in those days, Chad, at no time did they not try. Maybe they didn't guard as hard, they didn't hand check as much, but they were still trying. What you see yesterday, they weren't even trying.
No.
It was a joke.
Well, we got some ideas on that. And frankly, based on how much the players are getting paid to be there in that game, it's almost hard to argue with their lack of interest in the game.
Yeah, but they're all getting pretty good salary for the season, and I think that's kind of included in the package. But
okay, we'll come back and we'll talk some football. We'll put a wrap on the season with Alex Brink from E4 Sports, former Coug. He'll join us next. Craig Cheek, Portland Diamond Project at 4:20. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, very happy to welcome to the show our college football and NFL insider who is here to put a wrap on the season after the Super Bowl from E4 Sports and former Washington State Cougar. It's Alex Brink who is here on the Rip City Drive. Alex, it's great to have you back on the show. Happy President's Day, my friend. I guess we'll start with this. You know, now that you've had a week to think about it, what was your big takeaway from the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and 49ers?
Boy, what a game, right? I mean, that was that was pretty fun. I mean, my biggest takeaway, I mean, there's the obvious ones around, Patrick Mahomes and his play and kind of where he's headed, potentially in terms of greatness. But boy, my biggest takeaway is Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid as a head coach is as good as it gets. I think as an offensive play caller, I don't think there's anybody better in the NFL. I mean, when you really think about right, what they did with that touchdown to seal the game. And you think back to when he's used it before and that same motion and basically the same play, and to be able to kind of pull that out in just the right moment at just the right time among the rest of the game plan that I thought was so good in the Super Bowl. I mean, look, in all honesty, I mean, they're second to none when it comes to Andy Reid and calling plays. Not just now, but it's possible he might be one of the best ever.
Alex, I'm curious what you thought of Kyle Shanahan's decision in the overtime to take the ball first.
Well, he certainly made everybody believe afterwards that it was the right decision, right? That there was some sort of analytics behind it. But no, I mean, obviously, I think it was a mistake. I mean, I think you would like to go on defense and know what you were gonna, know what you're gonna get, I guess, so to speak. So I guess. In my eyes, it was a mistake. Obviously, there's a lot of rhetoric around it afterwards, and the reality of human error is stands out sometimes in the brightest moments.
Hey, Alex, what about Purdy's play? We know Mahomes is great, but what do you think about the overall performance from Brock Purdy?
Yeah, I thought Purdy was solid. I mean, I don't think I certainly think he gave the Niners a chance to win. I think you could go back and anytime you lose a big game like that, you can nitpick throws here and there. The reality is that the Niners were in command of that game, and probably my big criticism overall is that essentially you've got one of the top 3 to 5 players in the NFL in Christian McCaffrey, who's very productive early in the game, and then he just disappears early in the second half in moments when you probably, the Niners probably could have started to break things open a little bit, and they put the ball in the hands of Purdy, but more so it's just the throwing the ball that often against that defense is going to lead. Is going to lead to some inconsistency, and that's what showed up, and that allowed the Chiefs, to hang around and eventually get in striking distance, and then win the game. And so I just think, I think the Niners going away from the run game less because of who Brock Purdy is, and more because of who Christian McCaffrey is, was a real mistake.
Alex, we're kind of curious about what these college players are doing now in preparation for the draft and the combine coming up too. What's going on there with these guys?
Boy, there's a lot. It's a whirlwind. I look back to my experience as I transitioned from Washington State, up to the NFL draft and the Houston Texans, and it's a lot of things, and everybody's a little bit different. But in a nutshell, right, the season ends. You immediately go to you have your bowl games or play college football playoff for some guys. Then you immediately go to an all-star game, typically, whether it's the Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine. There's a couple other ones, so you're prepping for that. And then pretty much immediately after you're done with your all-star game, you fly to wherever you're training at for your pre-draft prep and for the combine, right? And so all of these guys are spread across the country. They're living in Florida. I went to Texas. They're in California. They're all over, and they're preparing for the combine primarily, right? If they've been invited, and so they've got to get ready for those things after their after the Senior Bowl and after all that, and then you do that, and once you do the combine, well, then you got to get ready for pro day. That's another month away from that typically. So now you go maybe back to the facility you were training at. In my case, I went back to Washington State, and I just kind of continued to train there. You got to prepare for pro day. And then after pro day, and the draft, the draft's coming up, so you stay ready for that. And then as soon as you're drafted, you're writing minicamp, right? And then you're writing OTAs, and then all of a sudden it's the summer workouts, and then before you know it, it's training camp. And so that's the hard part that people don't realize for rookies is they don't get an off season from the end of their senior year until the end of their rookie season. That's why a guy like CJ Stroud or any of these other rookies, that are so productive over the course of the entire season is so impressive, because typically rookies tail off because they get fatigued after playing all that ball from the start of their senior year all the way through the end of the NFL, their rookie season.
Alex, we see the combine. We know about the shuttle, the shuttle thing and the 40-yard dash, all these things. Do these guys, when they're preparing for the combine, is that what they're doing? Are they trying to get better at those things that they're going to be tested on?
Primarily, and then depending on the position, I would say every position also has a position-specific development element to it, right? So as a quarterback, you're working on the drills that you're going to throw at the combine, because typically those throws and those drills are pretty specific. Same for receivers. So you want to make sure, right? The combine's a beauty contest. Everybody knows what's coming, so you're kind of getting ready to take the test, so to speak. And at the same time, you want to hone your skills, but it's really about prepping for that combine or pro day experience. But you are working on your skills. I had a quarterback coach come in, work with me, but I also had our strength and speed trainer, work on 40-yard dash and all those sort of things. And for quarterbacks, it's a little bit different. If you're a skill player, really any skill player, you're trying to run the fastest 40 possible. And that's really the main goal, because we've all seen over the years, right? If somebody runs fast, they're going to probably get drafted, right? Even if maybe they haven't shown everything they need to on tape. So that's just the reality of the NFL. But yeah, primarily it's about preparing for all the drills you do at the combine, and then a little bit of that position-specific development.
We're talking with Alex Brink from E4 Sports, former Coug here on the Rip City Drive. I was wondering if you could kind of take us into the thinking. The Chicago Bears have the number one pick, as we all know. They've got Justin Fields, the Caleb Williams, and Drake Mayer available. So, what are all the different factors, including the resetting the rookie scale contract, that goes into this type of decision? What type of things are they looking at to try and come up with the ultimate decision?
Yeah, geez. I mean, it's a myriad of things. You're looking at the financial impact, no doubt. You're looking kind of at that organizational impact of what it's going to mean to press the restart button, and have you seen enough of Justin Fields? We know all about the negative things, but there's been bright spots as well. And do you feel like in the back half of the season, did he make enough strides for you to try and run with it? And if not, again, you're pressing the reset button. You got to start all over. And I don't know that anybody in this draft class is a slam dunk. I think you thought some of the guys were going to be slam dunks, and there's some really, really talented players, but I don't know that anybody's walking in and you're just saying yeah, this is going to be a sure thing. And so, I think that's a big piece of it. They're going to go into these meetings with the high level quarterbacks, the potential first round guys or, first overall guys. And they're going to say, hey, how can you change the culture of this organization? How can you change, our future and what's happened? And those guys have got to come in a job interview like manner and be able to show that they can do that with both their play and their personality, because nowadays these franchises, it's really, I mean, we've seen it over the years. When you take that first top 5, top 10 overall quarterback and then it doesn't work out, I mean, the Bears are stuck in it right now, right? Trubisky and then Fields, and then is it another guy? They've just been swinging and missing, and they can't get over the hump.
I'm kind of curious what you think about this situation. Ryan Grubb had an opportunity to go to Alabama. I believe he actually went there for a day or two before coming back to Seattle, and he has taken the job as the OC for the Seahawks. Can you tell us how is he going to be in the pros, and how big of an adjustment will that be for him going from college football into the NFL?
It'll be really interesting. I mean, I definitely think that there's going to be a transition. I mean, it's a little bit different game. I would say that, Coach Grubb probably runs an offense, and him and Kalen DeBoer had run an offense that, had more application in the NFL than some other guys, right? Whether it be like the Lincoln Rileys of the world or Cliff Kingsburys of the world. I mean, what they ran at Washington utilizes tight ends, utilizes some fullbacks, a lot of play action pass, very balanced in the run game. I mean, very, things that you're gonna see and use in the NFL. So I think you have that. In general, right, it's going to be figuring out how do you attack the defenses in the NFL that are significantly more complicated. That's for sure. But the reality of what this tells you, if you really step back from it, think about this: an offensive coordinator who got a job at Alabama with a good friend of his who just had a ton of success at Washington, right, chose to go to the NFL over staying at Alabama. And I don't know that in the past you could say that that would always happen, right? Because the path of being the offensive coordinator at Alabama is probably to go be a head coach at a major Division I university somewhere after that. And it shows you that the landscape of college football is in a really bad spot in the sense that these coaches don't want to deal with transfer portal and NIL and all the stuff that comes with it, even at Alabama. They would much rather go and take the risk of going to the NFL. And his situation is maybe a little unique because he'd been in Seattle with UW, but still rather go take that risk than go to Alabama, which, in my opinion, 5 years ago would have been a sure thing.
Alex Brink is here on the Rip City Drive, E4 Sports and former Coug. What do you expect Chip Kelly to bring to the Ohio State offense? What do you expect to see?
I'm gonna be actually really interested to see what he's going to bring. To be totally honest with you, I would say, based on what I know and have seen from Chip the past few years, you're going to see a lot more creativity in the run game than you've seen from Ohio State in the past few years, and you're going to see a lot more utilization of kind of formations and personnels. You're going to use more two, three tight end sets. You're going to see some unique run game schemes where he's using guys coming from maybe the slot position, moving into the backfield, a lot of the outside run game that he's been really known for. I think it's going to actually be a nice wrinkle for Ohio State to have Chip Kelly come in. And also the other thing is knowing Chip, right, he's going to be kind of innovative in his own right. He's not really the type of guy that just does the same thing year in and year out. He's going to try and see what the personnel for the Buckeyes allows him to do, and then he'll start to create plays and create packages around that.
Alex, what type of quarterback is Jaden Daniels going to be in the NFL?
I think it's a huge question mark. Jaden Daniels was incredibly successful at LSU. Obviously, Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, just unbelievably productive. But, even in the SEC, in some big games, he didn't show up in the same way. His time at Arizona State was a little bit up and down. And so he's got all the tools in the world. I think frankly, my main concerns is that his frame is a little slight, and that, taking some hits in the NFL is different than taking hits even in the SEC and in college football. And so I think, his health is going to be one thing to watch. Can he stay healthy? He likes to run the football, and that can be a real powerful tool, but also how do you protect yourself, right? You look at some of the guys and the way they're built running the football in the NFL, right? Whether it's the Josh Allens of the world, the Lamar Jackson. I mean, those are big dudes. They're really well built, and Jaden Daniels is kind of built a little bit different. So it'll be interesting to see how that part of his game translates. But when it comes to throwing the football, I mean, he's definitely blessed. He can really throw it, and so I think he'll be able to make all the throws in the NFL. I'm just interested to see the system he gets in, how they develop him, and what they ask of him early in his career.
All right, final question for you on the football. Bo Nix and Michael Penix. We know teams get desperate and take quarterbacks in the first round, but do you see these guys as first-round quarterbacks? Are they second-round guys? How do you view them?
Yeah, I think they're both second and third round guys, but I would say Nix in particular isn't that far off from being a late first round pick, and could even maybe go a little higher depending on kind of what the needs are for teams. And Penix, to me, as talented as he is and some of the great things he showed at Washington, I mean, there's just a lot of question marks, both with his health, right, his knees, the ACLs. He's not a super mobile player, so he has to be able to do all those things from the pocket that, at Washington, he did really effectively at times, but then there were some times where it didn't look quite as easy. And I think people are going to evaluate him and say, when he goes up a level, right, when he goes from the Pac-12 now to the NFL, is he, without the athleticism that some other guys have, is he then able to execute from the pocket the way that the way that teams need him to? If you're talking about being a first rounder or even second rounder. Now, does he have the arm talent to do it? Does he have the knowledge and some of the intangibles? For sure, I truly believe that. But when you're talking about a first round pick, they're looking for somebody that's pretty surefire, and I think he's got enough question marks that he might slip a little bit.
Well, Alex, this is pretty cool. We're giving away tickets this week on the show for the Portland Golf Show, which is coming up March 1st through the 3rd. And one of your partners, Headquarters Physical Therapy, is going to be out there at the Portland Golf Show. Tell me what's going on.
Boy, how about that? Look at that. I didn't even
Perfect.
know. Beautiful. I love it. Let's go. Whoever gets those tickets, come by the HQ Headquarters Physical Therapy booth. It's going to be a fantastic setup. Over at Headquarters Physical Therapy, really focused on, not just people that are injured, but people that, want to stay healthy or active, lead an active lifestyle. And a lot of it has to do with golf nowadays, right? Golfers want to get out and play their best and stay healthy, not have back issues and knee issues and elbow issues. So we TPI screen everybody, make sure, see where your deficiencies are that may be affecting your swing. You'll be able to get that done at the golf show, and then you'll get to be exposed to some of the great things we do to help athletes in the area and help golfers in the area and take that game to the next level. So check out headquarterspt.com. You can check out what we do with golfers. Check out the options for us everyday Joes that need to stay healthy and make sure we can move and feel all right every day when we get up in the morning. They do a fantastic job, and we look forward to seeing everybody at the Portland Golf Show.
Well, another football season in the books. Dwight and I certainly enjoy our time with you, Alex. So thank you for everything. Enjoy your week, and we'll catch up soon. You're the best.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.
You got it. There's Alex Brink. Well, he's right about that, man. Staying healthy and being able to move around the golf course is critical.
For sure. Alex hits a home run every time it comes on.
He's the best.
He's a great guest. So happy to have him on as regularly as we do.
His knowledge base, because he played the game, went to the NFL, and now he's coaching and working with quarterbacks, and he deals with all these youngsters in the Elite 11, so he knows all the guys.
Yeah, he knows them when they're first coming up and then follows them from there. So we get a great read on the young quarterbacks from him.
Well, we just mentioned the Portland Golf Show. It's coming up March 1st to the 3rd. We got a pair of tickets to give away coming up next, and then we'll talk about Tiger Woods. He withdrew from his tournament this past week, and he also made a decision with his apparel that may not be the best decision. So we'll talk about that as well. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Hey, Godfather, do you remember what you thought of Steph Curry coming out in the draft? Did you see him becoming what he is?
No.
Did anyone? No one did, right?
No, I'll be the first to admit I did not, Chad. I thought a little bit too small and a little frail because he'd had all those ankle problems that really bothered him the first couple of years in the league. But you mentioned to me several times that just sort of went away.
Where'd it go?
I don't know, but he hasn't really had that lately at all.
He's been remarkably durable for a player of his size. I can't get over the shooting, but also the leadership he provides and the help to Steve Kerr with some of those dynamics they've had with Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and the issues there. He helps keep everything together.
Chad,
they all respect him.
Did he shoot like that in college? Because I don't know. I don't watch college basketball much.
I just know that he had that great run during the tournament back in 08.
Yeah, I saw those, 2 of those games.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of guys in college light it up, and then they get to the pros and they can't make shots.
Right.
It's
that
happens
not
all the time.
You can tell me all the time how well a guy shot from 3 in college. I've seen just as many guys not pan out as the ones who have.
Jimmer Fredette, he was a great shooter in college.
Fantastic.
Didn't do jack in the pros, right?
Yeah.
We see that all the time.
Yeah, and some of them just take a lot longer to get there in the pros.
Yeah. Steph Curry he's unique for sure. And I give him credit for competing against Sabrina because he had everything to lose. You lose to Sabrina, and he's going to take heat for that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But what a great opportunity for Sabrina to go out there and compete against Steph. I enjoyed it. The Portland Golf Show is coming up March 1st through the 3rd out at the Expo Center.
I've gone every year, by the way. I recommend it.
It's great.
It's fun.
For you golf addicts out there, and I know there's many of you, the Portland Golf Show is great every year, and we got a pair of tickets to give away today and the rest of the week, and you can use the tickets and then stop by the booth that Alex was talking about with Headquarters Physical Therapy. E4 Sports has now dipped into the golf, which is a genius maneuver on their part.
Yeah.
So we'll give away a pair of tickets right now. We'll take the first caller. Your telephone number is 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Call now and get a pair of tickets for the Portland Golf Show coming up March through the 3rd. And it's a nice little savings because the tickets, if you buy out of pocket, they're expensive, a little spendy. So get your tickets for free right now.
Yeah. Have you got any for me, Chad?
I might be able to find something for you. Yes.
I figured you might be able to help me out.
I got your back. I can help you. But if you want a pair of tickets for the Portland Golf Show, March 1st to 3rd, call now. 503-248-0620. First caller through gets a pair of tickets for the Portland Golf Show at the Expo March 1st to the 3rd. Call now. 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Call now for your pair of tickets for the Portland Golf Show, 503-248-0620. Let's go out to David in Salem. David, appreciate the phone call. You're up on the Rip City Drive. What's on your mind?
It's good to talk to you, Chad, Godfather.
Thank you.
I just had a different take on the NBA All-Star game. I thought, was there only 3 fouls called in the whole game? And that troubles me. I'd like to see a more competitive game than that. I've watched the NBA. It's my favorite sport. And I just think it's just become too soft. And I thought, I like all the players. And some of the best players in the NBA did not really win the, the Player of the Game award. And I thought, I like Damian Lillard. You know that. I'm a fan. But I thought, really, it was almost like, hey, let's go through the motions. I think they need to add more reasons to win. Like, hey, if you don't compete and play hard, you could lose your guaranteed contract. Do something that means something to these people. Because money means something.
Yeah, the guys would play hard then. But, David, you don't have a different take than Dwight and I. We both thought the game was garbage, too.
Yeah.
Not competitive.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard you seemed really enthusiastic about it.
No. We were talking about Steph competing against Sabrina in the three-point competition. We were not optimistic about the All-Star game. The first thing we said coming out of the show was that they failed on their attempts to make it more competitive. In fact, it was worse.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I heard that, and I'm going, oh, no, because, I listened to Justin Myers. I listened to all your shows on the radio program on your station, and I thought Justin Myers had a really good take this morning, and that's a compliment from me because I've not been a fan of his, and I thought he did a beautiful job this morning.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you so much. And don't worry, David. We're used to people putting things in our mouths. That's been happening for the last 16 years of my life.
Ages, ages. Yes.
I love that too. That's like a backhanded compliment. Yeah, I really like Justin's show this morning. I'm not usually a big fan of his. Thanks for getting that little stab in there.
No, Justin's a beautiful man. We
Yeah,
love him.
the bottom line is with that game, it's they don't compete. They don't compete. And
How can you like it when? How am I supposed to care when they don't care?
I know. Like watching guys just stand there as they watch another guy just go uncontested to the hoop. That's weird to me. And again, I grew up watching the NBA when it didn't used to be like that, so it's a bit bizarre. Another news in golf. I'm like anyone else. I enjoy watching Tiger Woods play golf.
Sure.
I'm also a guy that enjoys Nike apparel. I wear it frequently, and I love their golf shirts. I love Dry Fit, one of the greatest things ever invented with the Dry Fit technology. Tiger Woods decided to walk away from Nike, and he came out with the Zone apparel line. And I've seen it, Godfather, and I'm like, this is a classic mistake by someone who probably has someone around him like, dude, you don't need Nike. You can go make your own gear and make more money from it. And now you see the result. Less quality gear that doesn't look as good, and now no one's going to buy it. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think it's really dangerous to walk away from a brand that's tried and true, has a lot of confidence from the public. You know, you go buy Nike stuff. Look, we're not getting paid by them either.
No.
Nobody's giving us a dime to
I
say
should,
it.
based on how much money I spend on their products.
I know, but I think we both trust what they put out. You see their swoosh, you know it's going to be a certain level of quality. So you trust it and you buy it. I can't say that I would have that same level of trust in Tiger's stuff because I've already heard people saying, you know, it's not as well made as that Nike stuff he was endorsing.
Yeah, that's problematic. But you know how it is. You get these guys. My guess would be it wasn't solely a Tiger choice. It was probably a combination of people around him thinking they're geniuses, convincing him to make the move, and then you walk away and realize that was a big mistake.
I can't imagine how many people are in his ear all the time,
Oh, God.
telling him, "Oh my, Tiger, Tiger, you don't need to do this. Try this, or your name is big enough. You know, they're sucking up to him anyway. Oh, your name is big enough. You don't need Nike. What do you need them for?"
MJ is the biggest name in sports, the biggest brand. He has been with Nike by purpose for a long period of time because he realizes that the Jordan brand without Nike would become something different and not better. It would become lesser than what it is right now. You need both each other. So I think it's a mistake. Tiger was the featured golfer for Nike for years, and I wish he wouldn't have walked away because I'm not going to buy his gear. I'm going to continue to wear Nike.
Yeah, the other piece of it.
I'm brand loyal, Godfather.
Of course. Well, the other piece of it is a whole marketing piece where Nike markets their athletes very well. Everybody knows that. They have for decades. Now, are you telling me your own brand is going to spend that kind of money on marketing your stuff? I doubt it.
Especially when you're pulling out every tournament because you can't play.
Yeah, that's a problem too.
Like Nike's brainwashed me. Like I won't even consider buying another pair of sneakers or gear. They've just got me hook, line, and sinker now. I'm in too deep. And I'm like that when it comes to certain things. I wear certain shoes, I wear certain gear, and I'm stuck there.
Yeah, Chad,
I'm not the only one, right?
Well, no, I mean, you're more, I mean, you're, I wouldn't say set in your ways, but when you find something you like,
I'm in.
You do not vary from that. You're going to do that forever.
It's true. Very true. All right, when we come back, we'll get to the greatest comedy that came from the All-Star weekend. I mean, LeBron James has said some ridiculous things, but the stuff that came out of his pie hole yesterday was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
My biggest issue with him, it comes down to one thing. He's a fraud, and he put that on full display yesterday.
He doesn't always tell the truth either.
No. When I was talking about last week, people that need to be placed in the truth machine, this would be Exhibit A right here.
Yeah.
We got it for you next. All right, now 4 o'clock, Chad here. Hope you're enjoying your President's Day. The NBA saw a record number of points in yesterday's All-Star game. The East defeats the West. Damian Lillard named MVP. Jordan and Dame now the only two in history to win an event Saturday and take the MVP honors on Sunday. The Nets have fired head coach Jock Vaughn. The team has named Kevin Ollie as their interim. The Trailblazers, 4 more days off. They'll host the Denver Nuggets Friday night at Moda Center. Game day at 4:30, tip at 7. Here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. 28 games left in the season for the Blazers. 15 are at home. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. 2 more hours to go. We'll talk with Craig Cheek of the Portland Diamond Project at 4:20. I'm not sure why Shacker's playing MC Hammer, but it's going to be stuck in my head the rest of the day now. Thanks a lot, Shaq. Certain songs get stuck in your mind. You can't get them out, Godfather, no matter what you do.
I know, that's one of them, too. I have the same problem with that song. And I never even liked the song, but that just gets stuck.
It's stuck. That's why my dad, for years, anytime the Brady Bunch theme song comes on or the Addams Family theme song comes on, he runs away. He's like, I can't take it.
Really?
He doesn't want it stuck in his head. Okay, let's play this audio here. LeBron James, look, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. There's no question about that. But the problem is that I've always taken him to be fraudulent. He's a fraud. There you go. He is a fraud, and this audio would provide prime example. He was at a press conference during All-Star Weekend talking about the future and a retirement and asked about whether or not he wants a retirement parade.
Farewell tour.
A farewell tour.
Yes.
Apparently, he's not sure if he wants that or not.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. He's got a lot of doubts there.
And apparently, he's also not comfortable with praise. It's like you wouldn't believe it unless he said it. And you're like, okay, he did say that. So let's take a listen to some of the nonsense from LeBron James.
Oh, there's a way to get him to play harder, Brian.
That's not the LeBron James I'm looking for. I think this is the LeBron James I'm looking for.
I have not mapped out how many seasons I have left. I know it's not that many. I also don't know if I will. I was asked this question a couple of days ago. Will you kind of take the farewell tour, or will you kind of just Tim Duncan it? I'm 50-50. I'm a.
So right now, he just said he's 50-50 on the farewell tour.
Sure.
Okay, I don't believe that. Let's take a listen to the rest of what LeBron had to say. I'm 50-50.
Yeah.
Really? Right. Okay. And you haven't mapped that out yet? I don't believe that either. This is definitely a this is in strong consideration for the Truth Machine.
I'm going to be honest, because there's times where I feel like I guess I owe it to my fans that's been along this journey with me for 2 decades plus to be able to give them that moment, you know, where it's every city and whatever the case may be, and, you know, they give you your flowers or whatever the case may be, you know, and that seems cool. But the other side of, I've never been that great with accepting, like, praise.
Yeah, he's got the tattoo on his back that says the chosen one. And every time he's introduced, he does that pantomime of putting the crown on his head because, after all, he is the king. And, by the way, all his subordinates call him king.
It was such a ridiculous statement that even he kind of paused. I've never been real comfortable with praise.
It's like, should I really say this? Because are people going to laugh when I say it? But I'm going to try it. See if I can get over on them.
All right, let's finish the rest of the comments from the gentleman who's not comfortable with praise.
It's a weird feeling for me. I never really talked about it much, but it's just a weird feeling for me. So to go in each city, if that's the case, I don't know. I've seen Mike's, I've seen Kobe's, I've seen a lot of guys. I just don't know how I feel. I don't know if I will feel great about it. Maybe the only child in me, maybe, but I don't know. But I am a Laker, and I am.
All right, enough. Okay, I will tell you right now. I guarantee you, I will bet my bottom dollar, every part of my body that he is going to take a farewell tour. There's zero doubt that this guy, he's not just going to end a season and say, I'm out, peace out. There's no way in HE double hockey sticks that's ever going to happen. Not only is he comfortable with praise, he actually loves it.
Oh, he seeks it out.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
He tries so hard to be accepted by everyone.
Yeah.
And this is where he gets himself into trouble because criticism and people that criticize him for various reasons, it bothers him. The guys I grew up with, like Larry Bird, didn't give a flying rip what you said about him. He did not care.
Right.
Neither did MJ, and neither did Kobe Bryant, some of the greats. But this guy here absolutely loves praise, and there's no question that he is going to, before he retires, he will let everyone know ahead of time, this is my final season, to make sure that he gets praise in every arena he goes to for the very last time.
And
I guarantee it.
He not only wants the praise, he wants the presence because, you got to give him a gift in his farewell appearance.
Yes, hopefully, I still will never forget the Trailblazers offering up a backgammon set to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar during his retirement tour.
Well, he liked backgammon.
I guess. But this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about with LeBron. It's like, why you don't have to just flat out lie. You are okay with praise, and you are going to take your victory tour, and that's okay. You don't have to come out and pretend like it doesn't matter to you. Just be like, yeah, I've been playing this game for 20 years. I love it, and I want to go out in style. I would respect him more if he just came out and said, this is exactly what I want.
Yeah.
But he has to pretend like none of that matters to him, but it does. And that's where he gets himself into trouble. He tries too hard to get other people to embrace him, to like him, to be accepted, and then he ends up looking like a fool. And that's crazy talk right there. He's 50-50 on the retirement tour.
Yeah,
Classic.
I mean, he also said over the weekend, somebody asked him, what about all these rumors about you going to Golden State, being traded over there? Well, I didn't know anything about it. I just didn't, I never heard about that. Sometimes when you're on a team, these things happen in the background and you never hear about it. Come on, LeBron, you're the de facto general manager of that team. Every move that's made, you know all about it. And they certainly wouldn't trade you without telling you about it.
There's no way he didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Of course. He doesn't have to act like he doesn't know. Of course he knew. My guess is Joe Lacob's the one that started that, right? Now, either Joe Lacob is dumb, and I don't think that's the case. He probably had his guys reach out through back channels to see if that was something that could be materialized. Something that could be done.
Also the rumor that was an owner-to-owner conversation because of the magnitude of player involved. It's like apparently Lacob talked to G.D. Buss about it. And I think that's not a bad way to do it because she's got to sign off on any LeBron deal, of course. So, I think that could have happened. But whatever, LeBron knew all about it.
Yeah. Clutch is too plugged in for him not to know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
There's no question. So this is where we're at with LeBron. He's going to continue to say things like this. It just drives me crazy, and I can't take it. He's been bothering me like this for a long period of time. And it's just a fraudulent act, and I can't take it. I can't stand it. And it's too bad because he's such a great basketball player. He truly is one of the greats. Do I think he's better than MJ? No. Is he one of the all-time greats? Yes. He's right up there, and he's awesome, basketball-wise. But the whole off-the-court stuff and the way he rolls, it's just too much for me. And it goes back to the decision. And then when he took criticism and heat for that, they came out with that whole cockamamie story about how it was for the kids and all the crap because he took a lot of heat for looking like a fool.
Yeah.
He didn't need to do that. But why did he do that? Because he wanted the attention. You don't have a special show called The Decision with Jim Gray handpicked unless you care about the attention.
Well, and then you go there and you have to have that. Remember the huge show they had when he showed up and not one, not two, not three, all of that stuff, with the way they were introduced and all that, that's just crazy town.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
Now, to his credit, everywhere he's been, they've won an NBA championship.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a productive basketball player. He's a great basketball player. And
he puts together rosters that really give him a lot of help, too.
Yeah, he knows how to piece it together. He knows exactly what he needs, and he's been great for a long period of time. What I'll always give him credit for that I marvel at is the high level of play at this stage of his career, 20 years in, and at his age. I haven't seen that before. It's remarkable that he can still play at the level he does. It's not the same level, but it's a
Yeah.
pretty darn good level.
He's neglecting the defensive end much more than he ever has before. He
And
used to be good there.
And I would too at that age. It's
Yeah.
hard for him at that age to be able to expend that much energy, so he has to pick his spots, and I understand that. But the durability and the way he's been able to play at a high level for that period of time is impressive.
Testimony to modern medical science.
It's great. I mean, how many guys, like even Kareem, who played for a long period of time, that last season in '88, he was not the same player.
Mhm.
But LeBron is he's still getting after it. So there you go. It's just like, it's too much. See, like you have a hard time giving him credit for anything because he
do.
drives you crazy.
Yeah, he does. And a guy that searches for approval as much as he does, you don't want to give him approval. You know what I mean? There's just something resistant about that. And I'm sorry about it, but at least I recognize it. He's looking for my approval all the time, and your approval, and everybody's approval. Well, if you're trying that hard for it, you may not get it.
He had Michelle Beadle removed from NBA Countdown because she criticized him for the decision.
Oh, he's got so much power at ESPN. It's unbelievable.
I think Michelle felt flattered that he cared so much about what she thought and what she said.
Well, wouldn't you? Yeah, that's a big deal.
I love it, too, because he's always wanted MJ's kind of endorsement, and MJ's always kind of shunned him a little bit.
He knows better.
No, and none of those other players, they didn't care.
Yeah.
In fact, I was listening to, there were a lot of great podcasts with NBA players this weekend because they were all together in one spot. But I think it was Trevor Ariza who was talking about Kobe, and he goes, look, here's the difference between Kobe and everyone else. He said Kobe didn't give an F what anyone thought about him. He just didn't care. He was going to go out and do it his way, regardless of what anyone thought. He wasn't worried about other people's thoughts and their feelings about him. He didn't care. He was going to go out and do it his way, and there's a certain aspect of that I respect.
His focus was so much on the game, he had no time for any other thoughts, really.
Yeah.
That guy was laser focused on what he had to do.
Yep. Yeah, and if you weren't going to work hard to help the team win, then he didn't have time for you. That's just how he rolled. My other issue with LeBron has been the stops that he had with, Chris Bosh and Kevin Love. When you play with LeBron, if things don't go well, the blame's going to be placed elsewhere. I thought Chris Bosh and Kevin Love took unreasonable blame for some failures because they're the ones that had to change their game the most to adapt to playing with LeBron.
Absolutely, Chad. They never got enough credit for sacrificing as much of their careers as they did.
They were both true one options on their team before they joined LeBron, but that's what his crew does. If it goes sideways, fingers are going to be pointed elsewhere outside of LeBron.
LeBron needs more help.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here in the show. When we come back, we'll focus our attention to the Portland Diamond Project. What's the latest on the site at Red Tail Golf? Craig Cheek will join us next here on the Rip City Drive.
Five seconds to go. The inbound to Timmy Hardaway. Hardaway at midcourt. He's going to have to let it go. He does. It's air ball after three. It is 82-80. Miami. We'll be right back. Culper, what's wrong with your man down there? We find out what's wrong with
Yeah, Michael Shacker just sent over some audio. I don't know how he had it. It's so random, but it's a Trailblazer game, and the audio recording is of Mike Rice and Bill Schonely during the course of a timeout, and they're having a discussion, and it was a question that you must have had with him, a little interaction about J.R. Ryder.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Rice launches into slamming on MC Hammer's song that we just heard on the show. Very random.
Mike was fairly opinioninated, if you recall.
I do recall.
Yeah.
But back then, you sat what, right behind the broadcasters?
No, right next to him.
Right next to
front
him.
row.
Front
Yeah,
row.
we were at the scorers table.
That's
in
pretty
those
awesome.
days. It was great.
Well, very happy to welcome to the show the founder and president of the Portland Diamond Project. Craig Cheek is joining us. Craig, good afternoon. Thanks for your time. How's life?
Hey, life's great. Happy President's Day, Chad and Dwight. Great to be with you guys.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Craig, I wanted to ask you, a while back, a week or so ago, you announced an interest in the Red Tail Golf Course property. Seemed like you've settled on that. But what I'm curious about is what's the next step there in that property? Have you made an offer on it? Where does it stand, and what's going on with that?
Yeah, great question, Dwight. And I think it was important for all of us, our investors, our team, the Portland metro area, just to be clear. Sometimes when you got multiple properties that you're looking at, you can just seem like, man, they're spraying the infield and they're not quite sure what a winning formula looks like. So we were very clear a week and a half, 2 weeks ago that we believe the winning strategy and what's going to carry the day for us is having a parcel the size of Red Tail, which is 164 acres. So we made that clear. It was very disappointing to, the mayor of Portland and some of the city council that we weren't able to figure out how to make an urban downtown location work. Specifically, Lloyd Center was the most recent one that we had locked onto. But the next process is we've had 2 appraisals on the property. So we did an independent one. The city has done one. And now that the city's clear that that's where we would like to focus our effort and get a purchase and sale agreement in front of them, we are crafting that offer and getting the right people to take a look at it, and then working its way over to the city for review. And then the process is it would have to carry a 4 out of 5 vote at the city council. So on parallel tracks, we've been working with setting up individual meetings with the city commissioners, answering any questions, walking them through why, some of the rationale on why we like Red Tail and what happened in Lloyd. And so all of that has been really kept us busy over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to get a 4 out of 5 vote from the council on anything, Craig, but moving on, what was wrong with the Lloyd Center side? Because a lot of people seem to kind of be pulling for you guys to settle on that side.
Yeah, and let me start with the glass half full on that side. From an accessibility standpoint, by far, it probably had the most going for it. You got, the Banfield running down one side, you got I-5, and there's even potential about that I-5 capping to expand that log jam there over time. And then you got Max lines that run right by there. So we liked it because it was very accessible. But we knew that it was always a heavy lift. It's complicated. It technically is not for sale. We were having to work back with KKR, who took the note back from the previous owners of the mall. So we were kind of forcing the issue of is it really for sale? And then we found out, and you just get smarter as you get kind of further in the process. It was too small. So it's complicated. It's expensive. It's too small, and it was taking too much time. And now what we've found in meeting with a lot of different groups and analyzing a lot of what's worked in other cities, you really do need to create economically a sports and entertainment district that can completely have the fans engaged, but more importantly, hold up the economics of what it takes to drop $2 billion on an expansion franchise and then build a a billion-plus stadium, knowing that you're not going to get a tremendous amount of public support. We're going to need X amount to be able to, show the league that we've got support in the state, the county, and the city. But the economics now of the land play have become paramount. The two things driving the viability and sustainability of a franchise is really your media rights deal, and then your land and how you are monetizing and operationalizing that. And we just felt like having 164 acres would be a powerful message to the league that we're thinking big. Would also be an important to note that Salt Lake, probably our competitor that is thrown their hat in the ring in the last year, is talking about 100-acre development. And so we wanted to play big, and we wanted to play the most successful that we believe will carry the day with the league and our investors. So that's kind of what happened with Lloyd. It just became evident that it was going to be too complicated, too small. It was only 27.1 acres is the mall. And these ballparks are taking 13 to 15 of the acreage, and then you got to build a little bit of an apron around it. There wasn't much development opportunity for us to really build our ballpark vision around it. It was going to be too tight.
We're talking with the president of the Portland Diamond Project, Craig Sheik, here on the Rip City Drive. Craig, I'm curious, what type of concerns have been expressed about the Red Tail site going after a public parks location with a golf course?
Well, you can imagine that the shock is definitely washed over folks, and the baseball fans are like, hey, this seems really, really exciting because it's one step closer. And then the skeptics and the naysayers are like, have you driven 217 lately?
Terrible. So
transportation and neighborhood are the two biggest probably call outs, and rightfully so. But again, as we've become students of what's worked around the country, if we have 4 years, technically we would be thinking of an opening day pitch April of 28. That's a lot of time to put all of that infrastructure in place, right? So, 217's under construction now. They're widening, they're putting more off ramps, but there's actually room for another lane or two. And we spent, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times in Atlanta looking to see how they executed their transportation plan. That now they're really claiming victory for how they did that out there in a very congested freeway system getting out to the suburbs. So we'll work with infrastructure. There's not one silver bullet that's going to solve transportation. It's a multimodal kind of effort, from the commuter line, that west line that drops you off at Hall, turning into bona fide Max line that would run all the way through to shuttle services coming off of, the 26th and 217 to, we still want bike tailgating. We think summer nights are going to be great. So we're going to try to figure out all these different ways to make it accessible to get in and out of there. And then the neighborhood association in that area, we've heard from a few of them. They're like, oh man, you're killing us. We like this private, serene area back here. You guys are just going to crush us. Well, we haven't even laid out our master plan yet. This is not going to be a concrete jungle of 164 acres. We're looking at some of the most unique designs, from the 20-acre reservoir man-made lake in Central Park and how that's become so iconic in New York City in Central Park, to walking trails, to an amphitheater, to all kinds of open spaces and training facilities for some of the soccer clubs. So I think once we roll out a real comprehensive plan and we engage the community around there, I think they're going to have more amenities than less when we're done. And we would probably anchor that ballpark more up towards the commercial zone now, right, which is the Washington Square Mall and the Target and all of that area coming off Hall and Olson or Shoals right there. Mm-hmm. The ballpark on 164 acres only takes up 7% of the space.
Wow.
So I think people envision it, oh, it's just going to envelop that whole thing. It actually takes up 7% of the overall development. So we just have to educate people and engage them, and I think we'll get them. We're not going to win everybody, but our job is to collaborate and make sure that people feel great about our plan.
Greg, it seems as if you're in a bit of a race with the group in Salt Lake City. I'm curious, do you have any idea now when Major League Baseball is going to start taking bids or whatever they do, or taking a look at potential expansion candidates? When is that going to happen? And are you prepared to be ahead of the Salt Lake City group when that happens?
Yeah, great question, Dwight. I think that we saw some really positive messaging when it felt like the entire Oakland A's situation was settled, and it felt like Tampa was settled. Those were the two prerequisites that the commissioner gave. That he said, I want to unilaterally know that those two cities and those two stadiums are stabilized, and then we do want to aggressively move and turn our attention to expansion. That I still believe everybody is probably believe that the A's are gonna land in Vegas. The vote already happened, but it's if you've seen in the news in the last couple of weeks, that's got a little wonky from the mayor of Vegas during Super Bowl week, mentioning that she thought they should stay in Oakland, and that 9 acres, the site of the where they're going to put the ballpark, is just too tight and too small. These are all very real issues that John Fisher and David Cavill with the A's are going to have to work through with Vegas and with the state. But I still believe that the league's probably believing that's just got to land, and they got to just kind of work through. So then we had hoped 24, this would be the year that we would get clarity on that. And I still believe that can happen. I know pitchers and catchers are reporting, and we're going to have spring training and hopefully another fantastic season. And Commissioner Manfred just came out and announced, you guys probably saw that he is not going to seek another term after this 5-year term finishes. So he's on the watch to accomplish a lot within the last 5 years, ending in 2029. He did say he wants expansion in process. Now, we hope it's on the front part of his 5-year tenure left, not at the tail end. But I think a lot of that is incumbent upon the cities and groups being ready. I think if the league knew that they've got Portland and Nashville and Salt Lake and Montreal and 4, 5, 6 cities ready, then they can go, okay, let's form the committee, let's start visiting the groups in the cities, and let's start narrowing this thing down, and then pick our 2 best prospects. So I think it's sooner than later. I don't have a crystal ball. The league has not announced the expansion committee being formed yet, but it could happen, relatively soon if they feel confident that Oakland is really going to stay in Vegas. I think those are the things to watch for.
Craig, I've got 2 more questions that people want me to ask you. Number one, would you put a shovel in the ground before getting the okay from Major League Baseball that you're going to get a franchise?
Man, that's been the $64 million question for our group. There's times where we say put the foot on the accelerator and go. There's lots of that development that you could put in.
Yeah. Maybe
we don't get games right away, but there's lots of those amenities, lots of that infrastructure. And maybe if it's open for a couple of years, we bring exhibition games. We get Portland State to reinstate their program. We get Oregon State and Oregon to play there, UP to play there. We hold events and concerts there. I know Tampa did that, and they waited 6 years to finally get their Devil Rays back in the day. And so it kind of worked for them to go ahead and lean into success. It's a big commitment, though, to drop whatever it's going to be, $1.2 billion on that stadium without knowing you have a team. So, but I think there's some things that we could take a look at to begin to build out the development. and maybe plan that timing where we'd get more clarity from the league. So not a solid answer for you, Dwight, in terms of would we. We are considering it, and we'll debate it, and it may be in our best interest to go ahead and lean into that, but we haven't made that call yet.
Okay, one more now. I get this all the time from people, Craig. They're not sure why you haven't identified the potential owner of this franchise. People are suspicious that you don't even have one, which I know enough money's been spent already. There's somebody back there with money. But can you go through the reasons that you haven't identified who might own this franchise?
Yeah, it's a tough one because we've tried to be, and again, we're not trying to be, mysterious or cryptic about it. There are some reasons that when we're in that position to roll that out, people go, oh, I get it now. It makes more sense to me. But I would tell you that just watch our sequencing. When we hopefully purchase the red tail, we hope that's very soon, and that will be a proof statement that we are spending considerable amount of money on this effort, and at that time we would disclose who the group is, but it's confidential because it does involve ownership in sports franchise today.
Right.
And that complicates things because you don't want to force the hand of somebody having to sell a stake or divest of a stake or whatever until it's more imminent, and it's the appropriate time to showcase the group. But we do have great traction with our investors. They are committed. We are going to purchase land and make that significant commitment. And then I think we would roll out a pretty exciting ownership group, and there's going to be even some additional probably baseball DNA that we'll be excited to talk about. So it's stay tuned. I'm not going to unveil it right now, but it's not that far off from people knowing who's behind the effort.
All right, he is the president and founder of the Portland Timing Project. It's Craig Cheek here on the Rip City Drive. Craig, man, that was an informative talk. We certainly appreciate your time, and thanks for the update, and we'll catch up soon. Enjoy your week. That was awesome.
Thanks, guys. Be well. I'll talk to you soon.
You got
Thanks,
it.
Craig.
There's Craig Cheek. All right, when we come back on the Rip City Drive, we'll get into more of the specifics of what Craig laid out, because I want to ask you some more details on why the ownership hasn't been announced and who you think it might be, if it's someone local or not. And then also 4/5 of the city council.
Whew. That sounds like a really tough job to me, especially when they want you going somewhere else.
Good luck with that. 4/5, Godfather.
I know. The only thing you got going for you is they're going to have to pay a lot for that piece of property, and they may need that money. They're sitting on that. You look at millions and millions of dollars, it'd be hard for them to turn that down.
That's true. Politicians have a way of latching on to cash.
Yes, they do.
All right, we'll get into that when we come back here on the Rip City Drive. That, of course, is Mike and the Mechanics. Paul Carrick on the lead vocals. I love him.
Good stuff.
Oh, such a great song. All right. Craig Cheek just joined us, Portland Diamond Project. Did it make sense to you as to why there's a lot going on behind the scenes as to why you haven't named an owner yet, right? They don't want to let that stuff out. It sounded to me like whoever the owner or owners of the Portland franchise would be, that they're involved in ownership elsewhere.
Yeah, and often, even if it's not an ownership stake in a baseball team, it could be another league that prohibits dual ownership of teams, so they'd have to divest before they knew that they were getting a franchise here. I don't know that they'd want that, but that could be it. But it's an issue where the owners just don't want to get their names out there yet. I know I had heard originally, some people said, guys that rich don't want anybody to know they failed to get what they wanted to get.
Yeah, they
They wanted the franchise. They finished second, and they didn't get it. They don't need people to know they were the guy.
But 4/5 of the city council. Good gracious. Good luck with that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you got to rely on 4 out of the 5 voting in your favor in the council, that would seem dicey.
Chad, I'll just tell you this. They crazy. City council, they crazy.
Well, the only thing I could think of when he said that was Thornton Mellon. He better reach out to them to get some details on how to deal with the local politicians.
Oh, you left out a bunch of stuff.
Oh, really? Like what, for instance?
Well, first of all, you're going to have to grease the local politicians for the sudden zoning problems that always come up. Then there's the kickbacks to the carpenters. And if you plan on using any cement in this building, I'm sure the Teamsters like to have a little chat with you, and that'll cost you. Oh, and don't forget a little something for the building inspectors. Then there's a long-term cost, such as waste disposal. I don't know if you're familiar with who runs that business, but I assure you it's not the Boy Scouts.
That'll be quite enough, Mr. Mellon. Maybe bribes and kickbacks and mafia payoffs are how you do business. But they are not part of the legitimate business world. And they're certainly not part of anything I'm teaching in this class. Do I make myself clear?
Sorry, just trying to help, that's all.
Now, notwithstanding Mr. Mellon's input, the next question for us is where to build our factory.
How about Fantasyland?
So good. So good.
How about Fantasyland?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think we could all pay attention. If this deal goes down, I'm going to take a special interest in automobiles driven by Portland City Council members. See what's going on behind the scenes.
You think somebody might get greased? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying if you're going to get 4 out of 5 people on that group to agree to anything, there's going to be some special work done. That would be my guess. You know, politics, such a legitimate game, of course. Oh, my goodness, Godfather. That was the sticking point for me. 4 out of 5? Oh, yeah, that's never happening. But you're right. If they know they can get $50 million for that site where Red Tail sits,
yeah,
it's a big chunk of change.
Or more than that. Who knows? 75. I don't know what it's worth, but trust me, I bet they have to overpay to get it.
Oh, yeah, guaranteed.
Yeah.
You're not getting a discount on that.
Yeah.
No, there's
Even
no
though
discount.
it'd be good. You know, it's not in Portland. It'd be very good for Portland.
Yes. You know where I stand on this. I want baseball. I just don't want my Portland Public Park golf courses taken away, because what concerns me, this would be my great concern. It starts with Red Tail, and then before you know it, someone moves in to take out Heron, and then that's a serious problem for me.
Yeah.
If it happens in one place, I'm concerned it could happen elsewhere. We've already seen Colwood get destroyed into a par 3 course, and Broadmoor's gone. So that's a great concern for me. But I do want baseball. I love access to public golf courses. So I don't know. It's a tough one, but I appreciate Craig's. He was very forthcoming with insight there.
Very much so. I think we learned more this time than we ever have about the project, where it stands, what the pitfalls are, all of that.
KGW's got a new figure out. Portland, the Trailblazers, their TV viewership this year down 49%, which is the most in the NBA for the local TV markets.
Ouch.
That's painful, really painful. And as they pointed out, because a lot of fans will just simply look at it and say, well, it's a rebuilding team. They're not good. What do you expect? But there are other teams suffering too, like the Cavaliers down 16%. I think the Pelicans are down 12% in viewership, and they're good teams. So there's just a myriad of factors. One, you trade Dame, so your franchise cornerstone, and you've got a group of young players that fans haven't identified with. You also have a team that's rebuilding, so they're not winning a ton of basketball games right now. And then also, remember we talked to the Trailblazers before the year began. Xfinity made that shift and moved Root Sports to their premium package, which means you have to pay extra to have access to Root Sports. And so that's been difficult because now some have made the decision not to pay the extra dollars because people are trying to, cut costs when it comes to their streaming and their viewership and so forth.
Well, let's face it, too. It's not a great time to be raising the price of viewing their games because, first of all, they lost Damian Lillard, and second of all, they're in the third year of probably being a lottery team. There's people willing to say, not now, not going to pay that extra money to watch them.
Well, what will be interesting, I think that deal with Root ends in 24-25. What'll be interesting, Godfather, is would they take on the model like the Suns have? The Suns have seen an increase in TV viewership, and as you know, their owner went straight to over-the-broadcast television, making all the games free.
I think that's going to be a thing in the NBA real soon. I think we're going to see more of that.
I'm assuming that all of the illegal access to games probably don't count as viewers, right? You don't get credit for the illegal streams?
No, pirating games does not count in the ratings figures.
I've never done that before, so I don't know what it's like to pirate games. It sounds interesting,
I'm sure you've heard about it, but you don't know a lot about how to do that.
I would never do anything like that. It's a great song. I went back and reviewed Thriller and looked through all the songs because I had forgotten some of the details. That was a freaking awesome album. Ridiculously good.
Oh, it's incredible.
You know what's cool about that video for the We Are the World, the greatest night in pop music doc on Netflix? How about the cameraman that was in there before everyone showed up, and it's just Michael Jackson singing his part? And there was no editing done. It was just Michael singing. He goes, I've never heard such a beautiful voice in my life, just singing by himself.
Crazy.
And he's like, hey, Quincy, was that okay? Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still can't believe Lionel. Michael Jackson wanted him to hold his pet chimp Bubbles. And then Lionel's sitting there as they're trying to write the song, and he hears some hissing, and he looks over, it's the python, and he's like, Lionel. He heard us singing. He came out. He wants to meet you.
Oh, God.
Lionel's like, I've seen how this ends with the brother and the snake. It's not good.
Yeah. Michael Jackson did a lot of things to make you wonder about him, and that was just one.
Who wants a python crawling around their crib, Godfather? Not me.
Oh, I had never understood the idea of a snake as a pet.
And then the dog and the parrot are yelling at one another. He's like, Michael, what is that noise?
Yeah.
You got to watch it. That's a great, great doc. All right, we'll come back and focus in on the Chicago Bears. Hopefully they're not as dumb as some people think they are. All right, it's 5 o'clock. Chad here. What's up, my friends? The NBA saw a record number of points in yesterday's All-Star game. Damian Lillard named MVP. He and Jordan now the only two to win an event Saturday and take MVP honors on Sunday. The Nets have fired head coach Jacques Vaughn. The team has named Kevin Ollie as the interim. The Trailblazers will get 4 more days off. The Nuggets are in town Friday to kick off the stretch run. It's at Moda. Game day at 4:30. Tip-off at 7 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. 28 more games to go for the Trailblazers. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming up right now. We've got tickets for the Portland Golf Show to give away all week. All right, here are your key headlines. The NBA All-Star game yesterday was even worse than I imagined it would be. Sabrina and Steph put on a show, and LeBron James is still lying with the best of them. And those are your key headlines. Dwight and Chad with you. We'll dig into the All-Star game. You know, we're going to try and come up with a solution on how they can improve the competition in that game. That was not what Commissioner Silver was looking for, he or Joe Dumars. And you could tell Silver was disgusted after the game. He looked pissed.
That trophy presentation. Well, yeah, I guess you guys scored the most points. Here, take this trophy. Get out of here, you knucklehead. It was not good.
My buddy Steve reached out to me before, and he goes, I took the over on the All-Star game, 357 points. And I thought, yeah, that's probably a pretty good bet.
Yeah.
After the first quarter where they put up a record number in the first quarter, I thought, yeah, that's in the bag. He's got that one. And they did it with ease.
Yeah.
That happens when you don't play defense or make any effort to stop the opposing team.
You just don't care. Yeah.
They played like a group that really was just going through the motions. Whatever.
Yeah.
No energy in the building either. It was a bizarre scene.
No obligation to the fans or the league or anything.
No, not really. All right, so we'll get to that coming up here in 20 minutes. I do want to talk a little NFL. Don't you find it odd how we're getting closer to the draft Godfather, and there's all these smoke screens around the Chicago Bears? Are they going to take a quarterback at number 1? Will it be Caleb Williams? Or are they going to stick with Justin Fields, trade back, collect resources, and draft and add to other parts of the team? You know, the difficult part for them is that Fields started to play a little bit better down the stretch, but he's beloved in the locker room, and he's got a lot of people within the organization that respect him, and now they're in a situation where they got to make the tough choice. I don't think it's a tough choice, but the Bears are in that spot. And you know, my guess would be there are other teams that are going to reach out. There are teams praying that they decide to stick with Justin Fields so they can have access to either Caleb Williams or Drake May.
For sure.
What do you think about the reports? Do you think Chicago is seriously considering keeping Justin Fields?
They crazy if that's what they're thinking. I'll tell you that, because that's the one position. You think you're pretty good at quarterback, you got to get better. And if you have a chance to get a guy better than the one you have, is there any question that Caleb Williams is better than Fields? I don't see any chance that's true.
I think in football, in the draft, there are 4 quarterbacks thus far who are no-brainer, can't-miss prospects at the position. Just 4.
Yeah.
Normally at the top, when you got quarterbacks, it's a dicey proposition. But the 4 guys so far that were can't-miss, obvious prospects that you have to draft were John Elway, who was drafted by the Colts and then traded to the Denver Broncos. You also had Peyton Manning, can't-miss prospect out of Tennessee. Andrew Luck, can't-miss prospect out of Stanford. And then the 4th one was Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
He's with Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
The 5th guy that would fit into that category, in my mind, is Caleb Williams. And most draft experts would agree, although there are some that feel like it's closer between May and Williams than people might think.
Mm.
I look at Caleb Williams, and to me, it's a no-brainer. He's got everything you want at that position. Smarts, arm strength, all the athletic ability, and he can improvise when have to.
Yeah.
He's got the same type of physical tools that you see in Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm not comparing the two because Patrick Mahomes is the greatest, but he's got the same type of skill set that you see in Patrick, and that's the type of quarterback I want. But on top of that, I'm drafting him just simply on the basis that you get to reset the quarterback contract. And
Yeah,
that gives you multiple years to be able to rebuild the team before you have to sit down and pay him big time cash. And that's huge. 4 years you get to reset that clock. Unless you think Fields is a can't miss prospect and you want to pay him, then you've got to go and make the decision just on the basis that you reset that contract. And when I look at Fields, he's showing some flashes this past year, but I haven't seen enough to where I think you got to stick with that guy. No, reset the clock, take Caleb Williams, who's going to be a better quarterback, and then you set up your franchise, which has been looking for a quarterback, a franchise guy, since before I was born. They haven't had that guy forever. And you have a chance to draft him, and you're going to stick with a guy that you're not even sure about in Justin Fields. That is total lunacy to me. Take Caleb Williams. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And your fan base will be happy, and then you get a chance to build around a legitimate quarterback, and then you move on, and everyone lives happily ever after. It's really that simple for me, Godfather.
Yeah, and if you get that rookie quarterback contract again, it gives you room to go after some free agents, but you also have a pretty good stockpile of draft picks from the trade last year. So I think you're on your way to rebuilding the team. You don't necessarily have to trade the first round pick this year for draft picks because you already have enough, and you're going to be bringing Fields back. And you're talking about a big contract now.
Well, the problem is, and you know this, I don't care what else you have on your team. If you don't have the quarterback, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're out of luck.
Because you have to beat a guy like Mahomes to win a championship. And if that's what you're trying to accomplish, then you need to settle on a guy who can be the ultimate quarterback. And I think Caleb Williams is that player. But what I think is happening here, the teams that are praying Chicago passes on him and keeps Fields, teams like Washington, teams like the Patriots, what they're going to do is they're going to continue to pump out all of these negative stories about Caleb Williams. Question marks about his dad, question marks about, issues. Is he really committed to playing in the NFL? Is he going to be a guy that you can really build around because he had to do a lot of things and improvise and kind of going on off his own script at USC? Like, you'll hear all these negative reports that no one believes, but they're putting them out there hoping they can convince the Bears to either stick with Fields or take May because they all want Caleb Williams. That kind of nonsense goes on constantly. There are teams praying the Chicago Bears stick with Justin Fields because they want access to one of those two guys. That's how it works.
Washington Commanders would die to get Caleb Williams.
Oh, gosh.
A Washington kid.
Well, they already went out and got, what's his nuts? The former Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury.
What's his nuts?
What's his nuts? How much would Cliff Kingsbury love to work with Caleb Williams?
Are
you kidding me?
That's a pretty good match.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, so I think that's what's going on. But in the NFL, you know how this works. If you can operate with a high-level quarterback who's on his rookie deal, that's why the Chargers are so dumb. They blew and wasted all that time with with Herbert when they had him on the rookie deal, but they were trying to figure out the head coach and poor leadership. And now you bring in Harbaugh and you make the right call, and now you're paying Herbert big-time money. You got to capitalize on that window. You can do a lot of great things like the Seahawks have done, like other teams have done, where you load up your team and you make a run before you get into the big-time money for your quarterback.
Yeah, because we know that NFL rules of the salary cap conspire against you when you're paying big money to your quarterback.
Well, look at the Chiefs this year. They're finding ways to win, but they've got the restraints are starting to feel the impact because they're paying Mahomes.
Yeah.
That means they had to say bye to Tyreek Hill, which impacts the offense. Now they're in a position where they may have to say bye to Chris Jones because of salary cap restraints because they're paying a quarterback. And the question is, how many big-time players can you lose before you're unable to get over the hump?
It puts such a pressure on your drafting, too.
Critical.
I mean, you cannot afford to miss in your drafts. You got to get players out of there every year.
You can't be successful long-term in the NFL unless you draft well. You have to hit on your drafts.
Yeah.
That's why these whole situations in the draft, when you get a can't-miss prospect at quarterback, you simply have to take it. How many times do you see teams take risk in the first round and they take a guy that doesn't pan out and they end up blowing that first-round pick? When you take guys in the first round, they're expected to be starters and highly productive. And when they're not, it damages you moving into the future where you look back and you're like, where are the starters from our last 2 or 3 drafts? And you can't find them because you made mistakes. That can set teams back for a long period of time.
Yeah, the Bears have made their share of mistakes. And you look at it and you think, well, they're certainly capable of making one more.
Yeah. What I like about Williams is that, and I noticed this down at Pac-12 Media Day, Like, he ain't screwing around. This is very serious to him. He puts in the time and works on his craft. I also like the fact that he worked with um, what's his nuts at USC, the quarterback whisperer, who I think is a great quarterback coach who can work with him. We've seen the success he's had with other guys, and they've just got to go out and you got to take Williams. If you don't, that you're probably going to get fired because he's going to go to Washington or he'll end up elsewhere, and then he'll turn out to be great, and then your owner's going to be like, why did we pass on him? Why did we stick with Justin Fields?
Yeah.
And that's not a conversation you want to have with your owner.
No.
I'd love to hear the discussions inside.
The owner has to be wanting to take Williams, if no other reason than economics, right?
You would think. Yeah. And you got.
I mean, a guy writing the checks would be all in favor of a lower paid quarterback.
See, what's great about this, the teams in the NFL that have been bad for an extended period of time, there's usually reasons behind that. And it's because of poor leadership, poor decision making, right?
Yeah. Or poor ownership.
Or poor ownership. So if the Bears talk themselves into not taking Williams, then you're going to look back and be like, well, there's another example of a franchise failing to do what was right and make the right decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes when these teams get it figured out in the front office, they start making good decisions. Look at the Texans, right? They get DeMeco Ryans, and then the C.J. Stroud falls in their lap, and now they look like geniuses, and they're going to be set for a long period of time.
Yeah, and a lot of it's luck with the draft. I mean, it's like the Blazers. Yeah, you get that number 1 pick, you get Wembanyama, and you're set. Whether you're dumb or whatever.
And they were one ping pong ball away from getting him.
Yeah. But, you get the 3rd pick, you take Scoot. We think it's a good pick, looks like a good pick, but boy, a lot is riding on that being a good pick.
Well, the other thing too, like you talk about, a lot of guys make decisions off of preservation, right? If you try to convince your owner that Fields is the right choice, and you don't, and he doesn't continue to develop and become big time,
adios, baby.
You're gonzo, man.
Yeah,
they're gonna drop your ass quick. All right, we'll come back and we'll dive into the All-Star game. What can be done? Because what I saw yesterday was just a continuation of what's happened now over the last decade plus, where the game has no competition. It wasn't like that in the 80s and early 90s, and the NBA's got to find a way to get it back. I think we've uncovered one of the big issues with why the players seem disinterested, so we'll kind of break it down and talk about it. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, Godfather, let's try and dig in. We all know the All-Star game is not what it used to be. I think most people can see that with the lack of competition. And yesterday, they set an all-time record for points scored in an NBA All-Star game. And the problem is no defense, no competition. And like I mentioned, I grew up watching it in the 80s and early 90s where, the players just approached the game differently. They would show up, they would want to compete and showcase, and the game would be a little loose through the first three quarters, but especially in the fourth quarter, it was kind of known amongst the teams like, okay, we're going to lock it down and play basketball here and try to win. And that, I don't know how we got to this point, but the game has evolved into no competition, guys not competing and not really playing to win. And it's kind of just a layup line out there. It's really weird. It's bizarre. How did we get to this point? What happened?
I think that's really hard to pinpoint several factors. But, Chad, my honest belief is that when you look back on players, and you always talk about Larry Bird, let's talk Larry, let's talk Magic, Jordan. Those guys wanted to play in the NBA to compete, to show people how good they were and to win basketball games. Larry Bird said it many times. The Celtics paid me to win basketball games. That's why they paid me. Not to score points, not to rebound, make passes. They paid me to win basketball games. That was his focus. And he did then whatever it took to win. And I think a lot of players in previous eras played to win basketball games and to compete with other guys to show where they stood on the ladder of success as individual players. I think today's players, an awful lot of them, are playing for the money. They like being NBA players. They like the lifestyle, they like the adoration, and they like the money. Competing, I think that's down the line a little bit. And you see that with guys sitting out games. Geez, I played a lot of minutes last night, don't want to play tonight. Load management, all of those things, not playing hurt. Games changed, and the players have changed.
Larry Bird has always mentioned that famous quote. Artis Gilmore went to him once when he was young in his career and said, hey, you can't play like that and last a long time in this league. He was talking about Larry diving for loose balls, getting on the ground, going into the stands, because Artis was just showing genuine care. It's like, you got to take care of yourself so you can last. And Bird's like, I understand what you're saying, but I can't play any other way but that way. And if that means I got to sacrifice years off my career, then so be it. But I've got to play it that way.
Well, and he did. He didn't play as long as he should have.
No.
Because of the wear and tear on his body. His back just couldn't take it any longer from carrying those Celtic teams.
Yeah, no question. Here's Brian Windhorst, ESPN, talking about the All-Star game.
Adam Silver came at the start of the season. He had three priorities for this year. One, he wanted players to stop resting as much, and he put a financial penalty in for teams if players rested on national television games where they weren't injured. That has gone way down. There's been a couple of penalties done, and teams have really knocked it off. Two, he wanted the players to really invest in the in-season tournament. He offered $500,000 to the winning team, $300,000 to second place. We saw great buy-in and guys talking about the money all the way through. And three, he wanted the All-Star game to be more competitive, made a whole bunch of changes, went back to the East-West format, eliminated a lot of the pre-game ceremony to let them focus on the game. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. There was no money involved, and so the players just went out there and had fun. Adam Silver didn't seem too thrilled. He pretty much, rushed through the trophy presentation and expressed his annoyance. But look, I'll show you the incentive, and you can predict the result, and that's what happened here.
All right, so I looked it up. I think, as it sits right now, the losing team, the participants get $25,000, and the winning team, the participants get $100,000.
Not enough.
That's not enough. I mean,
that's a shame.
I mean, I'm never going to feel sorry for a millionaire, but on that level for that game, $100,000 is a little bit of a slap in the face for those guys. Those are the best of the best showcasing. You need to increase the prize money for the players who are there. Because you know as well as I do, where would the players rather be? Hanging out that weekend, playing in the game, or on vacation, enjoying their All-Star break?
They'd rather be in Cabo or Maui or somewhere like that.
Yeah, of course. So you got to raise the money up. Make the money more significant. I'll give it up to this for the commissioner. I think the in-season tournament is. I don't think there's any purpose in having it because
Garbage.
There's no stakes in it whatsoever. But the players they cared because there was big money on the line, and they bought in more than I thought they would. So that was impressive. So you're going to have to make the money.
They bought in more than the fans did. But go ahead.
They did.
Yeah.
They're going to have to raise the prize money for the participants in the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good start to try and get guys to care. But the problem is, like you mentioned, this is something that's been going on for a long time. You can't make someone care about something if they don't care about it. You can't make guys want to compete if that's not their natural desire.
Yeah.
And this has been going on in sports for a long time, right? Everyone plays a sport for a different reason. Some guys play because they have a burning desire to compete and showcase their talents and be the best. There are guys like that throughout my entire lifetime. There are guys that play because they want money. They like the money and they're good at it, so they do it. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Everyone's got their own reasons for why they play. The problem is that you can't manufacture fake competitive desire, right? It's either you have it or you don't. I'm just surprised that I would think most people, this is not just athletes, but most people in the work that they do, they if they're going to show up and do something, they want to do it the right way so that they can be proud of the effort that they put together.
Pride in their job and their workplace.
Yeah, because I'm not just going to show up and do a radio show unless there's a proper process in getting that show ready, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to just show up and go through the motions. If I'm going to do it, I want to at least show some care for the craft. And I would think that a lot of guys would feel that way.
Yeah, your name is on it. You want your name associated with something successful.
Yeah. I just don't know how I would be impacted if I were making that much money, like FU money like they do. I mean, I don't know how much would it distort me. How would I approach it? I don't know.
That's what I was going to ask you, Chad. If we've settled on the way to motivate them would be money.
Yeah.
How much?
I would say I would say the numbers that you have for the in-season tournament would be appropriate.
Okay. $500,000 is what the winners of the in-season tournament got.
Yeah.
I would offer this. The teams in the in-season tournament featured 3 or 4 guys making huge money like all-stars, and then a bunch of guys who are probably vastly underpaid, who $500,000 meant something to them. Now, bring the all-stars together. How much does $500,000 mean to those guys, many of whom are on max contracts or very close to max deals? That might not be enough for these guys.
That's
Maybe
true.
you got to give them $1 billion.
But I always go back. Yeah, you're right. I always go back to what Patrick Ewing said. We make a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys making big money spend a lot too. So they're not going to shy away from a nice little cash grab. Or what you could do is, make it even bigger than that.
Yeah.
To where you have the winners walk away with, just a ridiculous number, something that would grab their interest, and the losers walk away with just a fraction in comparison. Up the stakes to where the winning team gets a serious number to walk away with, and I guarantee guys will compete.
That's what I was going to say. The prize jackpot is $100 million. Winner take all.
Yeah.
The winning team divides it all up. Coaches, trainers, players, etc. Everybody get it, $2.5 million probably. The losing team would get nothing. Now, there'd be some desperation in that game.
Yeah, because that's serious money, and those guys care about that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think at this stage, that's what you have to do. You up it to where the money's so big that they're like, okay, guys, we need that. And then you can – that's a good way to manufacture some competitive desire, is just to offer up a ridiculous number.
Isn't it a shame that that's what you might have to do to get them to care about an all-star game?
Yeah, because all I can do is relate it to myself. And look, I sucked at basketball, but I love playing it. When we'd show up at the water tower hoop where we played constantly, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, like when we stepped on the court, there was a desire inside of you, like whoever you were competing against, like we've got to beat them.
Well,
we have to do whatever it takes, man. Don't lose. We just lost 2 games in a row. We've got to get this game. And it would piss you off if you didn't win.
You've seen the Kobe Bryant take when he was asked about it many years ago, and he said, guys competed harder, played harder in the pickup games at UCLA. And that's true. That's flat out true. They're playing for nothing. But they didn't want to be embarrassed by these other guys. And no spectators, no TV. So there wasn't quite the problem with losing the game or being embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of these athletes don't like to be embarrassed either.
No. So if you don't go very hard, if you don't try, then if you lose, we didn't try.
We didn't try.
You
Doesn't
remember
matter.
kids when you're on the playground that way.
They would get pissed and they
Yeah.
wouldn't try.
Yeah. I didn't really want to win.
I didn't care. I didn't really,
Yeah.
I used to think that was punk. I'm like, whatever, man.
It's a punk move,
It's
no
a
doubt.
punk move.
It's a punk move in the NBA, too.
You're
right?
right. We don't care.
Yeah.
So you're just going to quit then?
Yeah.
You're a loser. Yeah. That's where we're at. But it's the game as it is right now. It's, and that's the problem with the Pro Bowl and football is that you can't play fake football. It doesn't work. Like the Pro Bowl, I can understand why guys might shy away from playing because the Pro Bowl used to be pretty nasty. Football is a dangerous sport. You can get hurt out there.
Yeah.
I can see why am I playing an exhibition game where I can get hurt and damage my future earnings? That's a problem. Basketball is a little bit different than that. Baseball is the last remaining all-star game that's legitimate.
Yeah, it's a legit all-star game.
Guys are competing.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's what we have. Isn't that nice?
Well, we solved that problem, didn't we?
Money.
All it takes is some of the NBA's profit, which I said $100 million. That was just pulled out of the sky. That'd be no problem for them.
Well, how many players are on a all-star team? Was it 14, 15? And then plus staff and coaches, how many would you have? Like 20, 25?
Yeah, 20 would be probably the most.
Okay, well, let's do a little math here. Oh, by the way, Doc Rivers is so kind that he's going to give his earnings to Adrian Griffin for stealing his job and taking his spot. Very nice.
Well, he should.
Okay, let's see. 10 divided by 20. Well, 10 million divided by 20 is $500,000 apiece. That's a pretty big number.
Yeah, that's back to the play-in number. I don't know if it's enough.
You go to 20 million pot, winner takes all, $1 million bucks apiece.
There you go.
That's a pretty good number.
Yeah.
And guys do care about that. They got these incentives built in for $1 million bucks here, whatever like that. That matters to guys. You can do a lot with $1 million bucks, I'm assuming. Right?
Yeah. We'll never know.
So, it's just hard for me because I don't want to be like that guy. It's like, wow, it wasn't like it used to be. There were probably guys who didn't care. There were guys, I know there were.
Oh, yeah.
There were guys who played in the 80s who didn't care.
Yeah.
But my favorite guys cared. That's why we love those guys, right?
Yeah.
Is it, and that's really what it comes down to. Like, we love watching guys where like, if they lose that game, they're going to feel as awful as you feel as a fan. We love that. Where you can see a guy out there, like, I'm going to give you everything I got to make it happen. And that's what I want to see. I think that's what every fan wants to see. Like, do these guys care? Do they want to win?
Yeah.
Because when you see them out there competing like that, it's like, okay.
Like I said, Chad, if they don't care, I'm not going to care.
Well, it's like MJ, like that, my favorite dunk contest back in '88 in Chicago. MJ's out there on the floor going up against Dominique. I mean, that's the ultimate competition. It's like Jordan knew that Dominique was one of his contemporaries, one of the best players in basketball, and those were the two best dunkers. And Dominique and Jordan wanted to go head-to-head to showcase what they could do. But you're right. A lot of guys are afraid to get on that stage now because they don't want to get embarrassed.
Yeah. That's why LeBron never entered the dunk contest. He didn't want to lose it. He didn't want to lose the dunk contest.
Well, don't you respect Curry for going out there and shooting against Sabrina?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because he'd have taken a lot of gas if he'd have blown that to her.
He had everything to lose.
Yeah.
But he was willing to go out there and do it against Sabrina, which was cool.
Yeah.
Because as an NBA player, if you lose to Sabrina, then guys are going to pile on stuff. What are you doing losing to Sabrina?
Yeah.
I thought you were the best shooter in the world.
Yeah, you embarrassed the league by losing to her.
And he goes out there and does it. I don't know.
Part of the reason I think he really likes her, they're friends, and I give him so much respect for taking an interest in the whole situation and being involved like that.
Yeah, you could see there was a mutual respect there.
For sure.
I enjoyed that. I didn't know what to expect going in, but after watching him compete, I'm like, well, I'm down with Sabrina, and I'm down with Steph. So I like the way they went at it, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect Dame for going out there. He's established enough where he doesn't have to go out there and compete in the three-point competition. But that's part of what made the competitions back then great is that it wasn't bench guys. It was MJ, Dominique, Clyde, Dr. J.
Jerome Kersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the three-point competition, it was Larry Bird, Danny Ainge, Dale Ellis, all the best three-point shooters in the game going up against each other.
Yeah.
I like that. It was the stars that bring you in.
Well, it's why people watched. People, I can't tell you. In those days, people talked more about the Saturday stuff than they did the game.
Did you ever cover an All-Star weekend?
Huh?
How many All-Star weekends did you cover? A ton?
Probably 10. Yeah.
Did you enjoy covering it back then? Or was it a hassle?
A lot more. Well, it's always a hassle in an event that big. But, yeah, I enjoyed it. I covered the last one in Indiana where Jordan won the dunk contest. I was standing in the background on one of those Nike posters where Jordan had a great dunk. It was a lot more fun then because nobody knew what was going to happen. I mean, Jordan's in the dunk contest. There were guys there that you thought might be able to beat him.
Dr. J was in that dunk contest.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
well, and that went
cool.
back to the original ABA dunk contest, which I believe was held in Denver. And that's the one where he went from the free throw line.
That's pretty sweet. All right.
There were some dunkers in the ABA, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That was
a lot of good dunkers, too. Oh, they had that deal where it was like almost like a science deal where they were trying to come up with ways to simulate the force that Shaq had on the hoop when he brought it down. And they had a hard time trying to figure out how much pressure Shaq had on the hoop when he brought that thing down.
Yeah.
Yep. That's changed, too. Daryl Dawkins busting backboards, shattering them. I remember Jerome Lane in college at Pittsburgh did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought the breakaway rims. Shaq brought a couple of hoops down. They had to continue to up their game to protect the baskets because of the different dunkers.
Yeah, I was at a Blazer practice when Jerome Kersey broke one at the Jewish Community Center.
Oh, sorry about that, Jewish Community Center.
Yeah.
And Jerome was a strong guy, too.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it's money. They're going to have to up the ante to get those guys to take interest in what's going on.
There isn't any other way, is there?
No. The other thing that jumped out at me, too, in some of these podcasts I listened to, different players, George Karl is a hated coach amongst players in the NBA. I couldn't believe Carmelo Anthony when he was talking about the first time he met Karl when he was in Denver. Karl went up to him and said, before he'd even really introduced himself, he's like, yeah, I think you're kind of overrated. And then started talking about the role he would have on the team. Who does that?
That's a great way to start a relationship. That's terrible. What would possess a guy to even say that? George
Karl's an a-hole. Kenyon Martin, I think, wanted to kill him. Like, literally was going to beat him up because of disrespecting him.
Kenyon Martin had that edge, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be worried about that.
I think it was Kenyon Martin who someone played a joke on him and popped a bunch of popcorn in one of his new rigs.
Yeah, I remember that.
He threatened to kill him.
Yeah. He filled the entire car up with popcorn.
They put a popcorn machine in there and popped a bunch of popcorn and got butter on the seats.
Yeah. That did work out as well as they thought.
Who in their right mind would think, oh, let's play a joke on Kenyon Martin?
That's the wrong guy to mess with. Yeah.
Like, there are certain guys you can look at and be like, okay, he can take a joke.
Yeah.
Not Kenyon. I just wouldn't mess with certain dudes. That might be one near the top of the list.
He couldn't play in today's NBA. He couldn't. There's no way he could have. I don't think Xavier McDaniel could play in today's game either. I mean, you think Draymond Green is something? X was 5 times more crazy.
And X would be more than happy to throw down with you. That was a tough dude. He was legit tough.
He was looking for that fight.
I told you, I heard a story once from a very reliable source. After practice fight up in Seattle once between X and Dale Ellis, the quote I was told was, blood was shed, it was not X's blood.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Charles Oakley was much the same way. Yeah. He popped guys at shoot-arounds. Guys on the other team.
My favorite
Famous stories on that.
Brian Grant told me in Vegas at the meetings, Charles Barkley was holding court, leaning back in his chair. He had done something to piss off Oakley. Oakley walks in, walks right over to him, open hand slaps his face, knocks him back onto the ground, stands over him and says, if you ever say anything about me to another woman, I'll kick your ass. And then he walked out. I was like, that seems like the Oakley that.
Yeah.
Even Brian Grant told me, he's like, one day he's wrestling around on the ground trying to get a loose ball, and this one guy was overly aggressive and he was getting ticked. He looked over, he's like, oh, well, we're good, Oak. And he realized it was Oakley.
Yeah.
And Brian Grant's a tough guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
All right, Rip City Drive, Dwight and Chad.
Are you going high five or just regular segment here? You got callers on hold. Just checking in. Is it high five or regular segment? Okay, two callers on hold. Yeah, two. Oh, I hung up. I'm here. Yeah, you hear me down the line?
All right, let's go out to the phones, 503-248-0620. Let's go to Paul in West Lynn, who's joining us. Paul, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, the Ace of Spades. That's a pump-up song. Guys, I actually disagree, of course. I think money is the problem with the All-Star game. It's exactly the same problem with college sports. Money has ruined it. You know, you go back to the 80s with Kersey and Jordan and Drexler and Neek. They weren't making $30, $40, $50 million per year. You know, I remember when Clyde signed a $2 million per year contract. That was considered a big deal. Well, that's less than the inflation for 2024 as far as salaries going up. These guys don't care about money when they're getting contracts like that. They care about championships. That's how they're going to be defined. And so I was thinking, why not just take it back to the fundamentals? Let's make it 3-on-3 tournaments. Each team submits their 3 players, the 3 best players, double elimination, 3-on-3 tournament. The winning team would get, like, I don't know, 5 games added to their win total and take away 5 losses. So, like if the Lakers and LeBron and AD and whoever else is on that team, let's say they're 41-41. If the Lakers team win a 3-on-3, they would have now 46 wins and 36 losses. So it ensures they have a better record. There's an incentive to play hard, to try to win. Make it playground. Make it win by 2, first team to 11, win by 2. I think you get a lot of buy-in. But money, these guys don't need money when they have $30, $40, $50 million per year, guys.
Well, I would disagree with that. I think people are always looking for more money regardless of how much they have in the bank.
I've never seen a rich guy yet who didn't want more money.
No, millionaires are trying to become billionaires.
Yeah. It's just that you got to reach that level where, you know, I'm not going to reach down and pick up a penny on the ground, but I'll reach down and pick up a $5 bill.
Yeah.
It's that sort of deal.
100%. And I'm not in favor of, I don't want 3-on-3 tournaments having impact on regular season standings.
I don't want to see a 3-on-3.
I don't either.
Doesn't interest me.
Let's go out to Preacher. Hey, what's up, Preacher? You're on. Fire away.
All right, thank you. I'm picking up what the last caller is throwing down, and of course, any pennies on the ground, I pick them up for good luck. So, hence, let me say this: instead of doing 3-on-3, the All-Star game was a joke. I'm going to work kind of backwards here. I'd rather do 5-on-5, 4 teams, 5-on-5, and literally the number 1 team that wins 3 games in a row, just like pickup basketball, either 21 or 11, that group there is the All-Star. So hence, if you win whatever you win, that is when you choose the All-Star. I would think that would help in the competition. You want to be an All-Star? Well, go with your team 5-on-5. There could be 2 teams playing at the same time, 2 teams over there playing at the same time. Long story short, I really enjoyed Damian Lillard winning that All-Star. I've watched Clyde Drexler literally go after it against Michael Jordan for a long time, and he lost to it against Magic Johnson. And that was kind of a give me year because Clyde should have won it.
Yeah,
and
he should have.
Right, exactly. And he had so Dame, either he's in a Milwaukee's uniform or he's in a Blazer uniform. He still is bleeding black, white, and red, and I enjoyed that. And I actually feel sorry for the Blazer organization that they missed out on that cue in regards to, man, we really gave away a three-point shooter that won and now an All-Star MVP. So however Dame got it, his look didn't look very satisfying. He kind of looked up like, yeah, I just got it because I'm the point guard and I got the ball and I'm shooting it. And that is the new era of basketball. And I hate to say it, I see it in the playgrounds all the time. That's why I don't even play pickup basketball anymore, because I'm not going to sit there and grab some guy's three-point long rebound and then give it back to them and shoot it again and again.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous basketball.
I agree, and that's why
there's something to be said for that.
Larry Bird was talking over the weekend, and he was talking about how it's amazing when you get the ball movement and you get a bunch of different guys involved, good things seem to happen.
Yeah, it's still a team game. People don't want to admit that. And more, it's gotten away from that. It's a ISO one-on-one game now.
Let's go out to North Portland. Mike wants to join. Mike, appreciate the phone call. You're up on the Rip City Drive. Fire away.
So how do you fix All-Star Weekend? It's real simple, Chad. You have the best players from the East versus the best players in the West. And guess what? The winner of the game, their team gets home court for the finals for their conference. By the way, let's get the actual best teams from the East and West. Let's have people who know what they're doing and talking about appoint these All-Stars. Isn't it by fan vote now? What are we – so, like, L.A. is always going to have 5 guys in. New York's always going to have 5 guys in, or by association, guys from New York. What are we doing? It's a popularity contest. I know it's usually the best players. That's how it usually shakes out. Have the game, keep it the same. Don't do this whole most popular player in the league gets to draft their team. That was ridiculous. Keep it East versus West. Make the game matter and have people who know what they're talking about point out starters. That's what I got, guys.
There you go. It would be kind of cool if they got a representation from each team.
That used to be mandatory. You'd need to, enlarge the size of the rosters, but there's nothing wrong with that either.
No. I would like that. You would have a representative from at least one player from each team.
There should be a player on there that every city in the league can root for, their own guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Who would be the Blazers All-Star this year?
Simons.
Anthony Simons.
Yeah.
And people would tune in to watch him play.
Yeah. Hope that he would get into the game because there's a lot more guys. Of course, they all get in now because coaches are afraid to sit a guy the whole game in an All-Star game.
That's not going to work.
Yeah.
Well, you brought me out here and you didn't play me?
Yeah.
That would not play well in the locker room.
Yeah.
All right, big thanks to Michael Shacker, to Craig Cheek, and Alex Brink. Justin Myers will have Rip City Mornings tomorrow at 6, and then Dwight and I are back from 3 to 6 with the Rip City Drive. Be here or be nowhere.
And there's no finale because they went past curfew.
Yeah, they played 17 innings before they just called it a tie. I heard about it.
Halfway through the bottom of 17, because they hit the curfew point, they just ended the game.
Right. No, thanks.